Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Art of Awakening. My name is Ona, and I'm just coming in to do a quick energy update and spirit animal reading. This is the week of January 10th, going into, I guess, what is it, the second week of January? And so I've got a little message here that I was given from Spirit that I wanted to start with because I think it just feels right. And they're talking about truth. Okay, they're talking about really staying in your truth. So they say the highest guru is within you, right? So that trusting that we each have our own inner guru, right, that we can really count on to give us that advice, tell us exactly what to do to help us through whatever it is that we're going through. And they say trust in the voice that brings you sustaining peace. So one of the questions that I think all of us go through is this really the voice? Is this really the voice, my guidance, or is it something else? And that's something that we all have to work through, because there's all sorts of things that come at us that want us to, kind of take us off into their agenda. And sometimes these things can be really, really subtle. So the advice that was given here is like trying, helping to discern what is, what's your truth and what isn't. So it's saying trust the voice that brings you sustaining peace. That means you have to be very, very discerning of, when you listen to this advice, how does it feel with you, right? And sometimes you just sit with it for a while. They say when you feel your spirits lift, when you feel that sense of freedom, not escape, but freedom, and that's true guidance. Okay, and so these are really, really subtle distinctions. Sometimes we have to kind of go along with some advice for a while first before we figure out, is this really feel good or not? They say that true guidance is measured by a bliss and an inner peace. Depending on circumstance, this may feel like joy, or it may feel like an absolute knowingness, knowing that you're, and feeling, it's more of a feeling like that you're exactly in that right place at that right time. If you just feel like you're kind of in that groove, when you feel like you just know what to do, right? That's your true guidance kicking in. No matter how hard or challenging, your situation may seem, when you feel that kind of grounded inner peace, that's generally your true guidance. Motivation by fear is not true guidance, and neither is motivation by winning, right? Motivation to win without the presence of that joy, that bliss, that grounded inner peace is simply a fear of loss, and it's not true guidance. So they're saying that winning is a natural byproduct of being in your truth. Doesn't mean you don't want to win. Of course we do. But winning is a natural byproduct of being in your truth, not the goal. Okay, so there's a real shift there. When you're really following your heart song, right, that's that true guidance, and it starts to lift you up and it feels good, even if you're going through something really challenging. So right now, of course, we're all going into this kind of very challenging period of time. And I don't know how people are, wherever you are at right now. And for some, it may feel really exhilarating, like things are finally moving and this is why I'm here on earth. And for others, it may be like, oh no, I'm not ready for this. And I think for a lot of us, it may be both. So, just if you're feeling really overwhelmed, just kind of keep in mind that, that light casts shadows. Like I've got this candle here, and I don't know if it's dark enough really to show, but if you shed that light on it, it's going to start to cast some funky shadows. And that's when, when we're all going through, typically there's this ascension process, right? We start to waken up, and that's where our light starts to shine. And then once that light starts to shine, the funky shadows start to happen, right? And then that's what wants to take us, kind of off path, because when you're stumbling around the dark, you only have a little candle, it can get confusing. So, but this is always what happens. This is, part of this whole ascension process. We've got this whole collective, this planet ascending right now. So we've got this happening at a major, major scale, right? Lights starting to shine, more lights coming in. We just had a huge amount of light energy coming in. and it's starting to throw even more shadows, right? The shadows are coming out and they're coming at us pretty hard for a lot of, whether it's individually or collectively. So the shadow is going to come forward in a number of ways, and it does it in order to take you off path. Ultimately, one needs to realize that the shadow is our ally, right? And in the very, very, very big picture, what the shadow does is it kind of, we bump up against the shadow and we start getting astray, and then we realize this isn't the right way. And so it forces us back onto the path. So it's got a number of techniques that it uses, and it's really good to be aware of these so that you can start to, as you go through, see them a lot quicker. One is confusion, like the gaslighting, the lies, the projection. Okay, confusion is a huge, huge, huge tool that the shadow uses to get you off track. And so one way out of confusion is to start really taking the bigger picture, and also to be aware of what's going on around you, because the more you can be aware of, rather than looking at one perspective, if you can see multiple perspectives of what's going on, you can get a much bigger picture and a better idea. So if you if you are feeling drawn to following current events and seeing what's going on, encouragement is to maybe start listening, instead of maybe to one side of the issue, start listening to different sides and see if you can't get a bigger picture of kind of how to put two and two together. Things aren't always as they seem. There's a lot of disinformation out there, and it may be impossible to know exactly what's disinformation and what's not. But I think the more that you can feel into it, and whether you're watching the news or just kind of feeling into things or watching how people observe, if you can stay disinterested, okay, because that's another thing that it does, is it tries to get you emotionally hooked. Okay, so that emotional hooking is like a huge, huge tool, right? So the more you can stay grounded, stay centered, stay like, be aware of the emotions, and then choose those emotions that, like the joy, right, and the bliss, start following those. Separation and isolation, another huge tool that's used by the shadow side, right? So just being aware of that. And we'll see what happens in the coming months. Suppression is another one, right? A lot of light workers have issues with the throat chakra, and that's often from kind of past life, just kind of really being snuffed out, or bound and gagged, right? Censorship is another one. Suppression is another tool of the dark. So just that you're aware of those things. And remember also that we have multiple aspects of ourselves. So when these things come forward, it's going to come forward on the spiritual level and on the mental level, but also on the physical level, right? Manifesting the physical world. And so one of the things that it's easy to do is to think, okay, well, this is a spiritual process, and it is, but to neglect that physical, whether it's our health or our physical surroundings or whatever, these things are all important too. All right, so anybody ready for a little reading? I'm going to pull a couple cards for this week and see what wants to come forward for the week of January 10th. And if you haven't yet subscribed, I encourage you to do that. And I always appreciate your likes and your comments. Hi, Steamer. Embrace the shadows, says they do not survive in the presence of light. Absolutely, right? And that's the thing, is that the more we start really focusing on our inner bliss, our inner joy, that inner guidance, it makes that light shine brighter and brighter and brighter, until finally it becomes like a sun, and there's no holding shadow to the sun, right? So absolutely, Steamer, thank you. Maintain the compassion observer state. You love them to death, absolutely, right? Even if they're doing things that are abhorrent, the core is love. Yeah, so all right, let's see. I'm going to pull an animal card here. This is bear. Coming up as a bit of a challenger, okay? So I always think of bear when it comes up in this position here as kind of coming up out of the the den in the springtime. They've been in there for months. They've eating away their store of fat, right? They're hungry, they're crabby. I can imagine kind of waking up in the morning, you're like, oh, right. So one thing is to kind of, there's a lot of intense emotions going on around here, just in general on the planet right now, and it's easy to again be brought into those emotional kind of eddies and currents, and so antidote to that, right, is first of all, as Steve says, kind of the compassionate observer state. If you can consciously stay in that compassionate observing state, it can help you to kind of just breathe and keep those emotions from raging, right? Because it's so easy to be triggered. It's so easy to be triggered when everybody around you is in this emotional turmoil, right? Because we have this what's called limbic resonance. It's in our brainstem. It's like we resonate with other people. And if you're an empath, it's even easier to do that, right? And if other people, and it may, even if they're angry, you may resonate as anxiety, right? So compassionate observer, just recognizing that all this is happening ultimately for the highest good, and that the best thing that we can do as awakened beings on this earth is to stay as grounded, as centered as we can, okay? As centered as we can, because that is really, it's going to have a calming effect over the whole planet the more we can do that. I'm going to pull another one here. Ooh, this one is Cougar. Again, that calm, cool, collected head. I think of most of the big cats, especially Cougar. It just strikes me as a strategist, and one that can kind of stay in that it's very much itself, right? Staying in your truth, having your boundaries, right? Your boundaries are so important, right? And if you have a practice of putting that shielding up before you go out, before you might want to do it before you hit the social media, anything like that, can be very, very, very helpful as well. And I'm going to pull an angel card here to round this off. Here, this one is, oh, soulmate relationship. Okay, that reminds me, because that's something that I was going to touch on, is that this connecting with the inner truth. It's something that we're all, of course, being called to do more and more as individuals. And I don't think there's ever an end to that. It's not like you get to where, oh, yeah, I'm in my truth, right? It's always a progression. But we can also, and especially the more and further we get along on that journey, I think there's going to be more and more of a call to start connecting with others, right? Who are also resonating with that kind of truth, that blue ray kind of truth. Feel to it. As we start advancing on the earth, as the ascension starts, the earth herself ascends, as the collective continues this ascension, we're going to start to see more of these soul groups coming forward. And you may have been experiencing, I've started to experience this already, connecting with people, sometimes out of the blue, sometimes from across the world, whatever it is, but people who have a certain resonance, and it's like these relationships are going to feel very easy and very just flowing, right? And you may have been through relationships, that helped you in your ascension process, that were maybe difficult or challenging. These relationships coming in, when you get to a certain point, and I think at this time on the earth that we're going to start to see more of these kind of soulmate, and this doesn't always mean romantic, it can be anybody, right? But these soulmate relationships with people who really are resonating and vibrating at a very high level together, and when we start coming together with these people in whatever way, it raises the vibration and it becomes another entity. It's just like the two coming together and it creates a third, right? This is the tri-wave pattern that starts to happen, that's very expansive and that really assists in this ascension process. We're going to see this more and more. We're going to see more and more telepathic things happening, and this is going to be super important, right? And what by telepathy, it it sometimes is like we may not even be aware of it, but I'm seeing this starting to happen more and more of the synchronicities between people, right? I have somebody that I follow that puts out meditations on YouTube, and it seems like every time I start thinking I really need some kind of a meditation of this topic, this person posts one. It's uncanny. We're going to start to see more and more of that, and this is uh, to me, it's really, really exciting. So watch for that, and just start being aware of these person to person or person to group synchronicities, because I feel like this is something that is a very powerful force on the world right now, in the world, that's really beginning to rise, and that's going to be very, very instrumental in assisting with this whole getting all of us, this collective, through this period of darkness that we're kind of in right now. So again, don't be afraid of this darkness. It is just something that that happens as we go through this collective ascension. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching me, and I just wish you all the best, tons of love and light to you. Thanks for joining me. We'll catch you again soon.